I would like to welcome Mr. Fahd Al-Gergawi, the Chief Executive Officer of Dubai FDI, and Mr. Sharif Habib Al-Awadi, Director General of Fujairah Free Zone. Mr. Mahmoud Al-Bassaki is going to run late. He's representing Dubai Trade. We have Mr. Hamad Abdullah Al-Mas, the Executive Director of International Economic Relations Sector at the Abu Dhabi Economic Development Department. And we have Mr. Jalal Khadr, the Senior Vice President and Head of Private Banking and Wealth Management Division at Union National Bank. And then we have Mr. Arnaud Briac, the President of Total for Middle East for Exploration and Production. And last but not least, we have Mr. Marwan Sirkal, the CEO of Sharjah Investment and Development Authority. Mr. Tim Rogmans will be helping me on the floor. He is one of our discussants over here. And I would like to first open the panel by asking a general question to Mr. Fahd Al-Gergawi. Mr. Fahd, recently we've seen really excellent numbers when it comes to FDIs pouring into Dubai and UAE in general as well. I would like to hear more about that from you, and what are your plans for this year to attract more investments?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and special welcome to our colleagues from the different IPAs of the world and the members of WIPA as well, and also to our colleagues here and the panel. I think there are many areas that we are looking at, but we are looking at right now to enhance what we have in terms of the overall investment climate. At the same time, we're looking at developing an FDI policy altogether to enhance as well the different laws, procedures that allows investors to come to Dubai. I think also within the same time, what we are embarking on also as participating in such prestigious events like this one, and going to different parts of the world, also to look into best practices from different parts of the world that we would implement the areas that really suits us here in the region, and the areas that will allow better business practices to allow, of course, business investors to utilize the great platform that we have here in Dubai and UAE.
And what are your expectations for this year? I mean, compared to the excellent numbers we've heard a few days ago about foreign direct investments flowing into Dubai.
Yes. Actually, it will be a challenging year for us, but at the same time, we are seeing a very dynamic year in terms of result, in terms of people coming in. Last year, we recorded, as we announced, 26.5% increase in total investment to almost 29.4 billion dirham. This is also an exciting year for us. We are seeing since last quarter very good results in terms of visitors, inquiries we're getting, at the same time investors coming to Dubai. We will still keep it somewhere, however, we'll keep it somewhere between 10 to 15% where we're looking at. If it goes better, it's always good, but we need to make it somewhere that is achievable, somewhere that is at the same time still there are challenges for us to work hard to bring such figures, but we are optimistic that this year would be, let's say, a transition year. From different perspective, we saw investors being very optimistic that probably next year would see a start of a new economic cycle for us here in Dubai, UAE, and probably the region. There is so many figures are bringing that, but we are seeing also investors taking this year as a preparatory year for the 2014 expectation.
Mr. Briac, your Total is basically one of the long-standing investors and partners in the UAE. I would like to hear what you have to say about your investments over here, the challenges that you've passed through as an investor.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure for me to be in Dubai and to see how the UAE has grown over the years, and clearly in the current world environment, the UAE do provide a very favorable and stable environment for investment and for foreign investment. Total stands here as a long-standing partner, as you mentioned, of the UAE. We've started our activities here in 1939, so it's been 74 years now. Of course, we started with a traditional oil production, but we now have integrated our activities down the value chain, from oil and gas production to gas distribution, to LNG, to petrochemicals with fertilizers. We are also involved in lubricants. We are involved finally in electricity cogeneration and very recently in solar energy. And for us, this integration down the value chain is really a good testimony of the way we've developed here and how we develop in many other countries in the world, where our contribution goes beyond simply financial investment. And we also invest in transfer of technology, transfer of expertise, training of people, and we think that this is very important. Just to give you a few figures, we have just under 500 staff here in the UAE, and we invest just below $1 billion per year on average. Just to give a few examples of our more recent partnership, one that is clearly a very important partnership for us, and as you know, we have many partnerships with ADNOC and affiliates of ADNOC, but also with Mubadala. And to take this one, the Dolphin project, which in fact links through a gas pipeline Qatar to the UAE, providing gas, is a very important project for us that continues to develop as we speak, since we have launched last year a new compression project to increase the capacity of this major infrastructure. We're also involved in the Shams project, which is a landmark project regarding solar electricity generation in the UAE, showing Abu Dhabi's strong commitment towards finding energy solutions for the future. We are partner of Masdar in this project, which was inaugurated by His Highness Sheikh Khalifa on March 17th of this year. We've also been a funding partner of the Petroleum Institute, and since 2001 this engineering school is training people from Abu Dhabi, but also from the region in the oil and gas industry. So just a sort of overview of where we stand, but we definitely see our presence here in Abu Dhabi as a long-term presence, and we would like to develop further for many decades to come.
Does this mean that you're going to increase your investments in the future, not only in the petroleum sector, but also in the green energy, in the UAE?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
We will indeed.
Okay. Mr. Awadi, we've seen lots of concentration of businesses in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and other places. What differentiates Fujairah? I mean, are you trying to compete with other emirates to bring investors into your emirate?
Thank you. First, good morning, everybody, and thank you for the kind invitation. The word competition sounds good, and the day the competition disappears, you must wind up the business. What we are trying to do in Fujairah, maybe to take advantage of what's happening in the whole Emirates, starting from the capital, Abu Dhabi, and Dubai. And if you've noticed in the last few years, Fujairah is trying to also brand itself in a different sector. And as earlier said today, we stand as one of the petrochemical hub, and also the backup of government of Abu Dhabi to the pipeline.
Maybe you do some cooperation with Total on this one.
Definitely. I mean, it will be surprising to know that today we have almost 9 million tons of storage capacity of oil, and then we shoulder to shoulder with Singapore and Rotterdam being one of the major hubs of bunkering. Beside being involved with the Free Zone Authority, with the government, I think I would like to say we want to be the kitchen of the Emirates. I mean, we want to take advantage and complement what has been achieved in all the Emirates, starting in Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Ras Al Khaimah, and Sharjah, and provide a better platform in the sectors that can be more beneficiary to the client or investor in the Gulf. I mean, we don't want to lose the client in the Emirates. So it's not necessarily Fujairah is the right place, or Abu Dhabi. Ultimately, we want to make sure that they have given the best opportunity. Numbers shows good in Fujairah. I mean, we are branding, I think, is very important, and we should focus on it in the Gulf countries, and focus this slowly in the United Arab Emirates. And we've seen what's happening in the business hubs, business trading, imports, export, as Mr. Kirgawi said. SMEs is one of the things also we should focus on to support what's happening in the other sectors. I mean, I'm sure my friends will talk about service sector, like education, health, and others. So you need to create different type of business.
What about the competition between the Emirates? Is there some sort of a healthy competition going on?
I think it's healthy. First of all, I mean, we are blessed that we are a part of United Arab Emirates. That's one thing. I mean, and earlier I was talking outside. We have a very unique location. Emirates itself, and I mean, you look at it, we are inside, outside Gulf. So it's a healthy, very healthy. I mean, if you see the numbers of every Emirates, when you see the press, whether it's in any Emirates, you see the number are growing. So I think these type of competition is created a challenge for us to improve. And when you improve your services, you improve your product, ultimately you give the client a better price. Better price, that means the security. So I think, yes, internally, myself or Mr. Fahd Al-Girgawi or everybody trying to pull up here and there, but ultimately I think it's a very healthy and very, very, very healthy, and is very promising. And that's why UAE in the last 20 years is always, the numbers are getting better. We are getting ahead of most of the countries into providing the most competitiveness in the business.
We will be getting back to these numbers. I would like to welcome Mr. Mahmoud Al-Bastaki. He's the CEO of Dubai Trade. I heard he had some hardships on the road. Mr. Serkal, Sharjah has always, for the longest time, been known as the cultural center of UAE. I'm sure there are other sectors that you would like to focus on to attract investors, so if you can tell us about that.
Sure, thank you, Leila. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good morning, all. First of all, we would like to thank the organizers for the great setup. We've been excited about what we've seen today and yesterday from the opening. We would like also to invite everyone to actually visit our booth here in the hall to see and to know more about what Sharjah is developing. So before answering the question about which sectors are we focusing on, I'll just give a 1-minute introduction about Shuruq. Shuruq is actually the Sharjah Investment and Development Authority. It was created in 2009 with the aim of attracting investments to Sharjah, the aim to develop projects, and the aim to manage these projects. We had created a major impact to Sharjah's economy since 2009. We have officially announced more than 9 projects in Sharjah between hotels, resorts, and we have focused mainly on the tourism sector as one of the sectors that we believe that has a great growth and a great return on investment. What we do also is we attract investment. We are part of the WIPA organization. We attract inward investments to Sharjah, more like an FDI agency. So we promote Sharjah as an investment destination. So in order for us to actually promote Sharjah properly, we did a whole study about which sectors would actually need to be boosted when we talk about economy. So we actually we set a KPI sector for us to see which sectors we need to actually attract investors to. So the sectors are travel and tourism, healthcare, and transportation logistics, and lastly, transportation logistics, healthcare, and travel and tourism, as I said, and environment. Those 4 sectors are actually, we did a study. The growth rate is between 6% to 15% in the coming 5 years, which means that Sharjah is actually driving to attract the highest investors in this. We actually did invest in the travel and tourism sector, and we believe that every sector does have a subsector. When we talk about a diversified economy, Sharjah is actually the most diversified economy when we compare it between the 7 Emirates. There isn't any sector that is higher than 20%. When we talk about the GDP, Sharjah contributes about 5% and 8% when we exclude oil out of it. So Sharjah is known as also as an industrial destination. We have more than 22 industrial areas. We have 3 free zones. Two are very well known, the Hamriya Free Zone, which is more like an industrial free zone, and we have the Sharjah Airport International Free Zone, which is more like a service-oriented free zone. The last one was recently created, which is the Healthcare City, which is basically located on the new Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Road. So we do focus on those. I would like you to basically visit our stand here next to us in the huge hall to know more about what Sharjah offers when it comes to developing projects. And we are here to support and help every investor to come to liaise with every government entity in Sharjah government to make sure that an investor that invests in Sharjah gets a great benefit out of it and has a great relation. At the end of the day, the all 7 Emirates contribute to the economy of the United Arab Emirates. We need to be different when it comes to types of investments, and we complement each other in doing that. Sharjah has been very successful by attracting a lot of airlines, such as the Lufthansa. Lufthansa, by the way, have the 2nd biggest hub out of Germany, is actually located in Sharjah. Many exciting stories when we talk about investment opportunities in the United Arab Emirates, and especially in Sharjah. At the end of the day, we're all close to each other. When you compare driving between Abu Dhabi to Sharjah, to Dubai, to Sharjah, to Fujairah, it's not more than 2 hours. So at the end of the day, we compete to become the best destination in the Gulf region.
So what are you exactly doing to attract investors? I mean, you are very diversified. You do have all these sectors to concentrate on, but what are you offering investors?
Well, it depends on which sector. For example, in travel and tourism, we provide prime locations for investors. We give them information about in which category, for example, of hotels to invest in. We even give them new destination. Sharjah is one of the cities, by the way, that the Sharjah Emirate has different cities around it. So we have Sharjah, we have Khorfakan, we have Kalba, we have Dibba, we have an island called Sir Bunair, we do have Mleha. So we try to attract investment in every different city. We give them good locations, prime locations. There, as you know, in the whole Emirates, we don't have taxes. There is a total repatriation of capital. So what is special about coming to invest in Sharjah is that basically you will be getting the support of the government of Sharjah, known as the government that will be supporting you is Shuruq. When it comes to healthcare, it's a different case. There is an entity that's responsible of the healthcare city that provides a location with a very competitive rates. We're trying to basically cater to the local market, I mean the domestic market when we talk about healthcare. So we're attracting hospitals that are going to come and open in Sharjah. We currently have 2 under construction, one by a Kuwaiti investor and the other by the federal government. Environment, Sharjah is very well known as one of the biggest locations when we talk about environment. And as you know, Abu Dhabi is the hub of ARENA. We in Sharjah has BIA. BIA is one of the biggest recycling plants in the Middle East actually. In Sharjah we have a plan by 2015. Everything is going to be recycled. There won't be any landfills in Sharjah after 2015, which makes it the only Arab city that actually recycles everything. So we're trying to attract more companies that are willing to invest in environment in a new free zone that's going to be created. Last but not least is the transportation logistics. Sharjah has a very successful seaport. It is known as the Khorfakan seaport, which sits on the Indian Ocean. It is by far one of the fastest seaports in the world when it comes to growing. And the company that is managing that seaport, it's called Gulf Dinar, manages seaports mostly in every continent around the globe. So many stories about successful things. We in Sharjah Investment Authority try to make sure that any investor relation happens in Sharjah, we will support them in everything.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mas.
Thank you.
He referred to Abu Dhabi a while ago, so I have to come to you to this one. Abu Dhabi is the largest emirate among the 7 emirates. It's one of the most vivid cities, growing cities in the world. Growing numbers, growing construction, growing businesses. So what are you doing at the ADED to kind of control and organize this growth? And what's your vision, what's your outlook, what are the challenges that you're facing at the moment?
Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to take this opportunity to elaborate a little bit on her question. First of all, what we have done in Emirates of Abu Dhabi, that we created and developed a 2030 economic vision that will give us an ultimate direction where we would like to be. And the purpose of that vision is to transfer our knowledge, oil-based economy to knowledge-based economy. In that, we focus on 12 sectors. The prioritized are healthcare and education. For that, we find out that FDI, it's an element for us to achieve that knowledge-based economy. On that base, we have considered, analyzing what does FDI requires. Is it just a land to build a manufactory or to invest in? We identified that it requires legislation and policy. It requires a world-class infrastructure and livable society. Many countries or many agencies, they miss that. These people who are coming to work, they are human and they require to have livable society. They are coming with children, with wives and families. So what we try to create a cosmopolitan society, as you see in United Arab Emirates. And what we have done in Abu Dhabi especially, we developed a new infrastructure that we will develop a new city to accommodate this expected growth from foreign investment coming in, and also, try to ease the business in Emirates of Abu Dhabi to make it through one-stop shop, that through DED. So we try to work all around the business environment to make it very attractive, very easy doing, and also competitiveness, to move in competitiveness ranking up. So it is very well studied. What I can tell people now, we are planting the seeds, but in 2030 we will be harvesting what we are planting today.
Inshallah. Mr. Khadr, UNB is one of the top investors in the UAE as well, and I would like to hear your viewpoint on this matter in regards to the financial sector, investments over there, investments in the UAE in general. Why should people come over here and invest their money?
Sure. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I think I'd like to start with a quote by Napoleon Bonaparte, who said that the ability is of little account if there's no opportunity. So unless there is an opportunity, people would not want to come and invest here. You have a country with a stable political system. You have a country which is very conducive to business and encouraging people to come and invest. Over and above, they put their money where their mouth is, so they start investing and seeding, like we heard from most of my colleagues. And having heard all the great initiatives and projects that we heard this morning, I think you always need financing and a banking behind it, because there is no project that can go without the support of the financial sector. The banking industry in the UAE in general, I mean, just to give you a small idea, the banking sector as a market cap in the market represents around between 45 and 50% of the market cap of the UAE equity. And I think at this stage, the banks have proven how solid they were, how liquid, and how capable they are of weathering the storm we went through and the meltdown we've gone through since 2008. There's an adequate legal framework
which does help any company to come and set up, because we do encourage people to come. We have a lot of fund managers, a lot of equity, private equity people who come and want to invest in the UAE, a lot of already private equity existing in the UAE who are investing and taking part of the success, because nobody wants to be, nobody doesn't want to be part of a successful story which we're seeing at the moment. Definitely the taxation is part of the game. There's a lot of bilateral agreement in terms of expatriates. There is free convertibility of the currency, which makes it much easier, because an investor that comes, he wants to be able to know that he can convert his currency or his dividend at any point on time without any restrictions, which has been there since 1982. I've been twice to the UAE, in 1982 till 84, and I came back in 92, and it's amazing what I've seen in terms of development. And the vision that each of those sectors have is just incredible. I mean, the 215 vision, the 2030, the 2021, and they're all built around sustainability and the development also of the Emiratis, the people, the local community, and that's very important, because capital without knowledge definitely is not a very successful equation.
So what are the main challenges that you've seen over the years being withered over here, and what are the challenges that you might see arising when it comes to the banking sector and investments in the whole?
It's being able to have a proper screening of all, because I mean, not every single project you see is suitable for most of the people who come. There are certain projects that are more suitable depending on the risk appetite of the financial institution, be it a bank or be it a fund. Mm-hmm. Some of these funds are huge. I mean, you're talking about billions of dollars that are ready to be invested. And I think by June, hopefully this year, the UAE, Abu Dhabi and Dubai market are on the screen for the MSCI. So this will definitely avail a lot of funds from the emerging market to come to these markets.
Mr. Bastaki, I know I've interviewed you a few years ago when it came to Dubai trade. It was doing great. There were plenty of businesses going there, and you were under pressure when it came to that. You were trying to organize everything. If you can tell us how you faced the past few years at Dubai Trade, and what are your expectations for your performance this year?
Right. Thank you. First, I apologize for being late. I hope I didn't miss too much. It's very nice to see the competitions in UAE. Actually, it's a legitimate right for every city to compete, which is what makes us all at the end better and more competitive and better customer focus. And that's the beauty of being in UAE, that we complement each other and we add value to each other. For Dubai Trade, for some people who have, the name is not familiar, Dubai Trade, we are a trade facilitation entity. It's a single window for online clearance of cargo. So there's an investment, there is banking, but when there's cargo, you need somebody who can orchestrate the data, who can help in facilitating all the data exchange and clearance of cargo between ports, customs, free zone, and all the stakeholders, being government department, and putting all the trading community under one platform. Dubai Trade was launched in 2003. It's our 10th anniversary. It's a very critical year for us. It has been a phenomenal, actually, achievement for all of us. We started in 2003 with hundreds of registered companies registered with us. 2012, even Q1 of 2013, we have passed 74,000 registered companies on Dubai Trade. In 2003, we had a couple of thousands of transactions. In 2012, we had around 15 million transactions online from A to Z. In 2003, we had around 70 services online. In 2012, we had 800 online services comprising of all the trade and logistics from the time of declaration, processing, port handling, until payment and delivery to the warehouse of the customers. The changes that we have made have been embraced by the customers. That's the key success factor for us, that the customers have embraced the online, and we have reached the adoption, which is the measure that we measure the success of the customers' adoptions of online services. The electronic adoptions has reached more than 95%, means that the customers are abandoning counters and paperwork. They are going for electronic. Payment-wise, online, using the payment gateway, which is the biggest challenge for any online or e-commerce platform, we have exceeded 1 billion dirham of payment done online, which is all gives you a signal that the customers in UAE and Dubai are trusting the platform, are using it wholeheartedly. Overall trade has increased. Last year, we had a remarkable record number in the history of Dubai and UAE. We have surpassed 1.2 trillion dirhams worth of trade, which is 13% increase of last year. Despite the global crisis, this place is growing. Export has grown 47% from 2011 to 2012, reaching 163 billion dirhams. So the perspective is very positive. UAE is growing. We are all working toward the goodness of this society.
We've heard lots of encouraging information over here, but before I go back to the panel, I would like to know if the audience has any questions to our panelists. Do you have any questions? Apparently, so far, no. Okay, I'll go back. Mr. Serkal, in terms of numbers, if you do have any numbers for us, can you tell us shortly about the growth in Sharjah and investments in Sharjah?
Actually, when it comes to investments, we actually have set a 10 billion dirhams plan to invest in Sharjah's projects. When it comes to FDI, we have actually set up a strategy to sign MOUs with a lot of agencies around the world to learn from them and actually to promote each other. So recently we did actually sign with the Hong Kong, Invest Hong Kong, and previously we signed with Istanbul, the ISPAT. We're trying to actually attract as high numbers as possible. Currently we're standing, in just a second if you need numbers just for the audience, we're talking about inward investments of trade flow from Sharjah. From 24 billion in 2006, we have reached 89 in 2011. And re-exports from the same period between 8.2 billion to 35 billion. After the creation of Shurooq, we have set a strategy to attract more investments and to promote Sharjah internationally. So how are we doing that? We actually travel all around the globe to promote Sharjah. We actually also work with investment agencies, and we actually do have a lot of collaboration with offices, trade offices that are within Sharjah. So we work very closely with the AHK, the German Business Council here. We work with the American Business Council. We do work with the businessmen that are actually located in the Emirates. Our objective is actually to attract and to promote also current investors, the investors that have actually invested in the United Arab Emirates. It's easier basically to actually please the ones that are here rather than attracting only foreign investments. Sharjah is actually known for being an attractor for a lot of investors since the 70s. Most of the hotels, by the way, that are in Sharjah are actually owned by Kuwaiti investors. A lot of the mega projects in Sharjah, one of them is the Nujoom Island, is an investor from Saudi Arabia. Another industrial city is actually owned also by a Saudi investor. So when we talk about foreign investments, we do have a lot of foreign. It's been concentrated more on the GCC nationalities. We're trying to open it up to have more Asian investors, American investors, and European investors, and definitely African investors. We're trying to make sure that we promote Sharjah and make them focused on those 4 sectors. That doesn't mean that if someone would like to invest in opening a university, we're not going to help them. We're going to help any investor that comes to Sharjah to increase what is required in Sharjah. These are the 4 sectors we focus on, but definitely we want to play a major role in also diversifying the economy even more and providing jobs for UAE nationals. So our focus, if you notice, in those 4 sectors are also we're looking for nationals to be in those sectors injected.
Okay. You spoke about the $10 billion dirhams sum of money to invest in Sharjah. Is it by the government, by investors, and over how many years?
It is in the coming 5 years. It's between the governments and investors. What we're trying to do is, in some of the cases, we have projects that we have announced. Not all of the projects that Shurooq has announced are going to be actually invested by the government. We're giving the opportunity. We want to play a major role in creating a platform where investors come and invest in Sharjah. And we have opened the idea actually to also invest in infrastructure. Major infrastructure. We've seen it very successfully in Europe, in Africa, in South America, and North America even, that investors do invest in infrastructure. We've noticed here Dubai government has actually successfully done it with Sufuh Tram, I believe, which was an investment, I believe, from a foreign investment that invested in infrastructure. So the platform is open to attract more investors in those 4 sectors, but infrastructure is a major investment, but it's a long-term investment. We're looking at investors that would like to invest as a long-term investment, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. We're not looking for investors that would like to invest for a couple of years and just run away, looking for a best return on investment. We're looking for investors that would like to invest for a long term and to be committed.
Okay. Monsieur Briac is one of the main investors over here, and if it's possible that you can tell us about challenges that you fear might arise in the future in the UAE that you're planning to deal with. That's one thing. The other thing, I would love to hear more about your future plans about investing more in this country.
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity once again to say something. And really, I would like to congratulate the organizers for this conference and particularly the Ministry of Economy of the UAE. I think that what is coming out of the various interventions this morning is that organizing, setting up a favorable environment for investment, albeit foreign investment or investment by the country itself, does stretch beyond just capital. It's really very important to create the right environment in terms of security, in terms of infrastructure, in terms also of educational potential. It's very important that people who decide to invest in the UAE really see that they can access to the right people in terms of resources. Clearly also for people who decide to in fact install themselves in the country, that they can see their children also being able to access to education. So from that perspective, I mentioned that we clearly, our investment goes beyond just industrial projects, but we also look at infrastructure, and from this, the Dolphin project is indeed an important set of infrastructure, gas pipeline all over the Emirates, trying to provide energy for the future. When we look forward as an integrated oil and gas company, and we like to portray ourselves more and more as an energy company, we see many opportunities to develop in the UAE. We clearly see that the value chain is developing. There are opportunities in sectors like energy generation. I mentioned about the Shams project. We know that there are other projects coming up. But we should not forget about what is still today the main, I would say, engine of the development of the country, which is oil production. And of course, Total is very much interested and committed to keeping its relation, its long-term partnership with ADNOC. And we know that the new onshore concession should be awarded by the end of the year or next year. So for us, this is clearly the number one subject in terms of growth, and we really would like to continue to be the long-term partner of Abu Dhabi in this very important activity that is oil production. Thank you.
You're welcome. I heard you earlier saying that you have a shy of 500 employees in UAE, but I didn't quite catch up. What's the size of your investments over here?
We invest approximately just under $1 billion per year in the UAE globally. As I mentioned, we just launched last year a major compression project upgrade on the Dolphin project, but we're also contributing alongside ADNOC in the increase of production capacity in ADCO and also in ADMA. So this clearly is a bulk of our investment. But as I said, we are also interested in continuing in the future at that level or even higher if required. And we see really not just Abu Dhabi, but the UAE has a very favorable environment for investment. We invest, as far as Total is concerned, all over the world in many different countries. And the combination of, again, stability, quality of infrastructure, and the educational environment that exists here is extremely important for us as an investor.
Okay, my journalistic experience is pushing me to ask this question now. Is there a number that you can give us about your future investments over here, or a new project that you haven't announced yet that you want to announce?
I think the main project for us is clearly the level of our involvement in the future new onshore concession in Abu Dhabi. This is clearly one of the top subject on agenda, and as I'm sure a lot of people knows in this room, being part of this new onshore concession will involve a very significant amount of investment, which will be done in combination, in partnership with indeed ADNOC, but probably also other foreign partners. And that will, of course, be probably the bulk of our investment for the future. Not to mention the fact that we are also partner of ADNOC on the ADMA offshore concession, where also we have major investment just now. And that concession will end in 2018. And we hope also to continue to be a partner of Abu Dhabi for many decades on this venture. Thank you.
Merci bien. Mr. Gergawi, I know that you've been, for the past 2 years, you've been going around the world in roadshows, you've been meeting with foreign investors. What are the things that actually you put on the table to promote Dubai as a hub to attract foreign direct investments? Is it the stability, security, growth, ability to grow over the crisis that passed?
I think it's a multi-layered question, but look into what Dubai right now in front of investors and what they will be looking at. There are 2 dimensions to that. The normal investors, let's say, and what they're looking at in terms of an investment destination. And number 2 is what's happening around the world right now, where we're facing with almost half of what investment globally used to be. I think we used, by 2007, it was globally $1.9 trillion worth of investment. It shrunk to somewhere around 50%. But at the same time, more emerging cities, regions, countries are looking into compete within investment going on. So what differentiates a location from other is also beyond what the normal investment is going. How that dollar will go for, let's say, more miles. And this is where we're looking to, when we talk to our partners or investors looking at Dubai as a destination. It's holistically UAE as well as within the different platform that UAE play within the Arab world and here. But when we talk, there are a couple of areas that people would love to hear and would love to start looking at as a destination. Dubai as a proximity to global markets around us, and this is where access market to consumers, and this is where Dubai access to regional destinations such as East and West Africa, North Africa, Middle East, Indian subcontinent, and also certain parts of CIS. We're looking at, if we look at a 4 hours flight time, Dubai give an access to investors for markets of 2.2 billion consumers. These are direct connection flights from Dubai, direct meetings that happens in Dubai and easy to access also. Those markets consist of almost 1/3 of world population, world consumer markets. At the same time, the dynamic and entrepreneurial business environment in Dubai that allow businesses to flourish, new ideas to come, new implementation of projects to be even JV'd and established. The excellent global infrastructure facilities that is available in Dubai and UAE altogether within 3 major international airports with almost 80 million passengers if we combine it together, or more even. Dubai airport alone stands of 57 million passenger handling last year, being the 3rd largest in the world. At the same time, we look at, from investors' point of view, there is also a liking of not only accessing these markets, but also being access to global markets. The facilities that is available for trade to go even beyond. And this is where we are embarking with our partners from Latin America, where we are having more and more relations established. Actually, the latest one that will be open today is in Ecuador Trade Center for the region. And this is where a major role will be played for the city to be a linking hub between Latin American markets and the rest of the area here. I think this is a multi-layer thing, but a normal investment destination and what it gives and what's more than that. This is why I think UAE is connecting a larger region in the world around us. We see, and our region, that's currently, if you look at where the economic growth is happening. It's here, where we are. It's in Africa. It's in Middle East. It's Indian subcontinent. We're looking at 4 to 6% on average. This is not happening in many places around the world. We know Europe is there is a slow, long-term, movement of economic, development that would need some time. US is slow still. Latin America is growing, but it needs also to connect with new parts of the world. This is what Dubai is giving the Latin American companies and product. At the same time, there is a new emerging markets around us. I think looking at different dimension of not just attracting an investment, but also giving an investment a growth potential. And this is what we embark on. We wouldn't talk to an investor just to come and set up. Actually, the relation starts when you set up. This is the real relation. When an investor would like certain support from our side, there is always a service available for them. But also we want investors to utilize the positioning of the country and of Dubai to grow their businesses. And we will take them to grow their business. We're happy to take them to Qatar, to Saudi Arabia, to Egypt, to Africa, to invest. And this suits us well. This is where I think the unique proposition of Dubai. It's more of allowing investment to grow, but also giving them what they need in terms of services when they are here.
Mr. Mas, Dubai is basically a trendsetter when it comes to having one of the largest free zones in the region. I mean, the number of free zones is increasing over here. Recently, we've heard about a new business free zone in Abu Dhabi opening. Are you planning to introduce more free zones in Abu Dhabi? And what are they?
First of all, I'd like to elaborate on the word free zone. We are developing industrial zone. It's not free zone. However, we have a KEZAD. It's the newest industrial zone. It's 53 square kilometer, and this is phase 1. Second phase will be 240 square meter, kilo square meter, which is going to be the biggest industrial zone in the region. However, because of the Emirates of Abu Dhabi focusing to transfer to knowledge-based economy, what we are trying to do to attract companies that with the leading edge in technology. We are focusing on companies with know-how and technology, investment instead of labor intensives. So for that basis, we created a specialized 100% ownership in this industrial zone for companies that can lead our economy and add value to us. So in that part, we can call it specialized zone in the industrial zone.
Are you planning to introduce free zones in Abu
we
Dhabi?
have other free zones, which is, service spaces. But as our economy trying to transfer to knowledge-based economy, we are going to be focusing on 12 sectors, and they are manufacturing and, tourism, and we are oil and gas services and alternative energies, and we have financial services. So these specialized zones will be developed and created. And in these specialized zones, we can say now we are developing small free zones.
Do you sense a demand from foreign investors to having free zones in your emirate?
Yes, we realize that. But what we try to do, try to make Abu Dhabi an international gate for companies to enter Middle East. By having free zones, that will give us another challenge. So what we try to do, encourage foreign direct investment to partner with our private sector to transfer knowledge and expertise to our local market, and also to enhance the human capabilities by training and introducing the new practices and best practices to our society. As what my colleague mentioned, we are now in the middle of the world, in the center of the world, because of the shift of the economic gravity from the west to the east. So what we try to do as UAE in the 7 Emirates to leverage on our exposure, geographical exposure. There are many countries around us. There are many countries that are having excellent bilateral trade with us. What we try to do to enhance that, and also to create and develop the best platform in the region, in UAE, by considering the competition and the challenges around us.
Tim had a question a while earlier.
Yes, good morning. Thank you very much. I work at Zayed University, and I do research into foreign direct investment into this region, and I work with some companies interested in investing in the region. And the first question many people ask me indeed is about this requirement for a local partnership and the possibility to have full ownership or not. And I think if perhaps you can say a little bit about that. But then also I noticed that a lot of potential investors get stuck on this question. And then as a result, they see the requirement for a local partnership as a constraint rather than an opportunity. So I would be grateful if you could also say a little bit about the benefits of partnering with a local company, and perhaps some of the activities that you carry out in order to help companies find appropriate local partners.
Okay. Who would like to take that?
Thank you. It's an excellent question, and I think it's always roaming around the air where the foreign ownership and 100% ownership is always what investors are looking at as the simple start, and then whatever else comes within the facilitation. I think looking at where we are right now and being a center of FDI in the Arab world and our region as well, the larger region, and being also a place where UAE have attracted a lot of investment, a lot of multinational, and knowing that there is yet up to today, there is no FDI law. I think we have to ask this, why investors are coming to Dubai. Still there is no FDI law. I think, or the whole country itself, why they're coming to UAE, and the FDI law is, we know that it's gonna come very soon. This is because all the rest of that. So investors has all the potential to grow and has at the same time all the different facilitation for them to own their businesses. There are over, I think, 32 free zones in the country, 20 at least, I think, in Dubai. These free zones have started in '85, where in the region there was no acceptance of free zones. but it proved that this is a platform for investors to looking to grow their investment, looking to grow their businesses for future. So I think ownership was also, although it is a question, but as long as you provide the solution for that. A legitimate solution was always there in UAE, and once there was an extra examples of looking at different setup processes, I think UAE provided the maximum or almost whatever in the books of type of setup that allows businesses to establish and grow, be it either a direct investment or a JV that comes from different parts of the world. This was a great platform for them to grow. If you look at how many multinational companies, I think on UAE, if we look at the top 500, Fortune 500, we wouldn't look for anything less than 350 companies established. If you look at the other way around, a new establishment of, different nationalities coming here to set up a business for themselves and to grow, I think this was always the case. Within the free zone, of course, we look at outside the free zones, establishing inside the cities or inside the Emirates. You go into 4951, but there are practices that allowed, businesses to own all their operation. Still, there is a good practice as well, I believe, in Sharjah with allowing more companies or more business sectors to be, owning their business where there is a local service provider as service agent. Within that as well, there is huge success into that. But we are very optimistic about the new FDI law that is expected, and I think all of us have shared some part of certain amendments, recommendation, where such law would allow certain areas to really give on 100% ownership with certain criteria that meet the different requirements for the country.
Okay, thank you. Before I go to the floor for questions,
there is an elaboration.
Maybe I can elaborate on one thing. There are a lot of advantages of having a local Emirati national being a partner. And to elaborate on the answer here is basically we do have options. We have free zones, 100% ownership. Nobody will ask you even about anything to share with the government or with anyone. So you have that liberty of having your own 100% in all of those free zones. Then it comes to the mainland. You're here, you're a foreign company, you would like to invest and open a company in the mainland, then you try to look for a UAE national. A UAE national or a company that will give you information about the region that you by yourself you would never get. And believe it or not, even if you go anywhere around the world, you will always try to find someone that knows more about the local market. So there is also benefits out of it. The benefits are knowledge about the market, is about even support within government. You have some UAE investors that actually have links with different companies that actually has very strong ties with government bodies that will give you great locations for land, they will get you great opportunities, they have great relations with banks. So those UAE nationals or local companies would actually support you dramatically. So I feel even with the law that will come, there are still companies that will keep their local investors with them because they believe looking for a future development, looking for a better support. And we find that even when we, for example, as Emiratis, GCC nationals, we travel and try to invest in the GCC market, let's say in Kuwait, in Qatar, in Doha. We try to find even a local partner that will come with us to partner with us. Not because we cannot, but we can, because GCC nationals can all invest in all of the GCC countries, but because that national himself knows more about the market than us as foreign investors.
Thank you very much. Before I head to the floor for questions, I just have one final question for Mr. Awadi. It's regarding Fujairah Free Zone. I mean, everybody has something special to give out. If you can tell us about the number of investors that have increased in Fujairah Free Zone and what you have to present for them this year.
Thank you again. If you allow me, I just want to add one more point with my high regards to my colleagues. And I think when we're talking about attracting investment and foreign investment or FDI, I think there is also a few factors we have to, which goes to your answer. I think what we are lacking in UAE in particular, and then maybe the neighboring countries, to develop a processing sector. A processing sector is the long-term and the sustainable business. When we say processing, that doesn't mean basically just manufacture, but something that's not going to be a briefcase business. Businesses like we have logistics cities and logistic businesses back, which is available in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and other Emirates. Similarly, we want to develop manufacturing bases. So I think when asking what is the advantage, I think we want to attract the local participation or involve the foreign with the local participation, maybe to give a little bit more support to the business, to think a little bit more within what's going to be done or what's possible to develop in this country. Going in that sector, it gives us a lot of opportunity to get to create. I mean, earlier, Mr. Sarkar says we want to create jobs. You cannot impose to a foreign company to hire locals if you tell them you have 100% freedom of doing business. So you have to work a different way. You have to give them, it should be give and take. You have to get a little bit of involvement of different ways. So that's what we are trying to do. We get our locals to get a little bit educated with the business that can be done. And the same thing, we give a little bit of security. So that's one part I wanted to add. In Fujairah, as also Mr. Almas said, sometimes maybe a business itself, it grows. 10 years ago, we started doing something with oil, with a little bit of oil. Exactly 2 years, almost 2 years. I mean, we're nearing. The government of Fujairah realized there is an industrial zone coming called Fujairah Oil Industrial Zone, FOZ. So this is automatically, it's got created, something exactly to support the Mr. Almas's idea. We want to develop such businesses that can stay long, it create knowledge, we will be surprised that a country like United Arab have a lot of foreign investment, but a lot of enterprises, but we have limited manufacturing.
How many companies do you have at the moment at the Fujairah Free Zone?
In the free zone currently, we're talking about 3,000, but we are proud to say that almost 25% of that are processing. You will be surprised when I say in 2012, we crossed a matter of processing, exporting more than almost 3.2 billion dirham of processed product from Fujairah Free Zone. Okay, that's just one sector, and I'm sure other free zones in UAE has contributed, and that's what we are looking for. The last 3 months shows about 7.8% of growth. And the second part, earlier I was talking to also, I think Tim, right, if I'm not wrong. I have about 6 projects in Fujairah today. They are involved with R&D. They are working with Al Ain University of Abu Dhabi into developing solar system. We have another company doing into printing and printing materials. Another one in developing of processing of yarn. We just want to cross the limit of import, export, and this is good, it's needed, we need it. You need all the circle, you need the import, export. We want to create enough business to support the infrastructure, that amazing infrastructure we have. A country like United Arab Emirates has enough national airlines, have enough ports, enough airports, and they are, as Mr. Almas said, and Al-Ghargawi, and world-class services. And within what?
I'm sure you do have all of that. I'll have to cut you a little bit short because we're running out of time. I need to go back to the floor.
So that's it. I'm sorry.
No, that was very informative. Thank you very much. We have a question down there in the first row.
Thank you very much. I am Emmanuel Nutari. I'm the director of Anima Investment Network. We are a network of investment promotion agencies from Europe, from North Africa and the Mashrek countries. And our activity basically is to promote joint cross-investment between the countries associated within the organization. So I'm very interested to know the cooperation and competition process between the Emirates agencies. And I was wondering this, what you have in common really. Is there first in terms of legal framework, or do you have a joint framework for tax or for establishing a company? Is that something in common that you can promote within the different Emirates? And do you, as investment promotion agency, do you have some topics or issues that you are mutualizing, like prospecting together, like doing investment intelligence together, or so? I'd like to know what is a cooperation you have been establishing.
Thank you. Overall, UAE is a federal country where within that we are 7 states, and each, we call them emirates, and each emirate has its own, under the umbrella of the federal law, we have also certain practices internal. There is certain autonomy to really develop our own, economical structure, economical plans to allow better businesses usage. Because as each emirate has certain areas of let's say, uniqueness in terms of businesses, in terms of, other areas and infrastructure as well. Within that, yes, competition is part of that, and we like that, because this is what drives us to always have something new to discover, a new area to perform, which is a drive for excellence. And this is where it's always been part of UAE. But on the other side of it, we do have a lot of common areas that we work on. Among them is also the federal law that rule the certain areas within the economy, and also within the companies, registration, the licensing, and all that. Nevertheless, we try to identify certain areas that allows us to really grow. And probably when we mentioned the free zones, this was one of the earliest free zones that was established in the whole entire area was in UAE, the Jebel Ali free zone in '85. And that was part of how to come over of certain, let's say, areas that maybe the federal law, cannot give you. And this is always a legitimate part to look into to develop your businesses. When we go out, I think the strength is being together. We just came all together as UAE from Erbil, where not necessarily all the time all the Emirates will participate, depending on the areas, the location, and all that. We go and promote our businesses there. We went to Kurdistan, northern Iraq, and Erbil to promote certain businesses from different parts of UAE. So there are common areas that we work together with, and we are the United Arab Emirates component of the different, economic structure. But at the same time, each Emirates have uniqueness. Abu Dhabi is rich in oil and gas, but is a global ambition and renewable energy, and as well as industries and so many other areas, art and culture. There's art also established long time ago in Sharjah, but tourism and services and trade is also part of it. Dubai as a trade and tourism as well, and logistics, marine logistics is so important, being in Fujairah. So uniqueness are there. That's why it's easier to sell UAE from different point of view and different point of accessibilities to international investors.
Okay. We have room for 2 more questions.
Yes.
The gentleman over here, and there's a gentleman over there, if possible.
Hello, good morning. My name is Nusa Aschenbrenner, and I'm an advisor on investment promotion. I would like, first of all, to congratulate the panelists for a most illuminating discussion. And I think we have learned a lot about some of the secrets behind the great success of the United Arab Emirates, which I call the UAE miracle, or the UAE economic model, which a lot of countries, I think, are looking at to emulate and to learn from. But I have one question. When I look at the FDI trends, I see that most of FDI, particularly in 2012, has gone down by 12%. UAE has managed still to attract investment. It can still attract more, but the trend is that it's on a downward fashion. So the other thing which I noticed is that when you see the source of most investments, we noticed that emerging markets are actually at least for the year 2012, they have managed to invest some 50% of overall FDI, in the world economy. So they're becoming really very important investors. And I would like to hear from you what is being done in terms of strategy to capture some of these investments, which are coming mostly from emerging markets and several growth markets. And the other question is that how in which sectors would you like to have some of these investments come in? Because I hear very well that at least for Abu Dhabi, we're really targeting knowledge-based type of investments. How are you targeting, like Singapore and other countries, which have really that type of investments? Because I didn't hear anything about this. According to the McKinsey last report, 60% of overall consumption in a few years is going to come from growth markets. It's going to come from developing countries, not from the West. So how is the UAE positioning itself vis-à-vis these markets? Thank you.
You're welcome. I think I'll take this opportunity to answer part of your questions, because you asked many questions, so I'll try to answer some of them, and if I forget one, please remind me. The trend is coming down on FDI. It's because UAE captured in the last 2 years a big amount of FDI moving around the world to come to UAE. As on Abu Dhabi side, I will mention that we are focusing on certain FDI that has a knowledge base and added value to our society. And on value, if you look at our number of companies, still, we have the 12 sectors are fresh, developed for foreign direct investment to come in Abu Dhabi as our 2030 vision moving forward. That's on that part, but I'll allow my colleague also to answer on the FDI trend. And also, this is where I'll lose your questions. So what we are doing, how we are differentiating ourselves moving forward, each government is doing its best under the federal law. But my colleague mentioned, we are competing. We are competing in a healthy way. We are not competing that, try to destroy each other. We are competing and complementing each other. This is where, as he mentioned, we go in delegation together. We show the investors what we can do for them. And also, we have, as a Department of Economic Development in Emirates of Abu Dhabi, we have signed MOUs with most of the same agencies in UAE. That, for example, when we travel together, we try to complement each other. And also, if an investor came to Abu Dhabi that he doesn't fit the 12th sector and I don't think he will succeed, I will not tell him, yes, do the business here. I will transfer him to Dubai or other Emirates. The purpose is for the international investors to stay in UAE. That's my ultimate goal. I will allow my colleague to answer the rest because I forgot the rest of the questions.
Thank you. I think there are a couple of areas if we look at. Yes, the trend globally is going down and within the overall, but there are areas that are doing something to attract. And it's not about just the normal investment itself. It's the total overview of the destination itself, what it gives to businesses, if we will take that into the general perspective. One of the easiest way to look into that is where UAE been embarked from the beginning, from the inception, and this is also the DNA of the country. The inception was when we will go a little bit back. When the British left the area, we could have gone each emirate by itself to be, a country, and it was going to be nice and it was going to be fine. But the leadership here took a little bit of that comfort, of that, sovereignty of being, my own, rather than being collectively together. Let's get a little bit of that area, but let's have a better common success altogether. This is the DNA of the city. If you have something to give, here you are most welcome. If you have a new idea, you are most welcome. So it's not only about where we are, it's about how we started. This is very important to understand, where UAE is the only federal, country in our entire region. But at the same time, the people who came here, who established that, was always having this, to allow new ideas to come, to allow new people to come and participate in the success, because the success will go for all. The citizens, the residents, the expat, the visitors, whoever can add. And this is entrepreneurial from the beginning, entrepreneurial from the inception, because you allow new ideas, you allow new concepts, you allow new businesses to come, and that's why I think the differentiation is there. If we look at the general terms of what we're doing about it, actually we are competing internally, and this is actually more healthy rather than waiting a competition to come from outside, from the region or from outside. This is a drive for a formula for success. Not necessarily all competition are bad. Competition actually, let us see from the internal house, what's the best, let's say, practice that came even within the same house. And this is the drive for excellence, as we say. This is where the leadership is letting us do this and really excel within what we want to do. On the other side, where investment are doing, I think preparing ourselves to be ready rather than the classic question came, well, UAE benefited from the Arab Spring. I think this is too classic. There are many things happening around the world. But our main top, let's say, destination of investment are UK, US, UK, India. It's not because of anything else. It's because of we choose to be ready. We choose to organize ourselves and put the infrastructure and let people see, if I come to do business here, I'm not seeing next 2-3 years. I'm choosing to continue for many years in future, and many people reside here, many families continue to be here, and they like the lifestyle of UAE. So different component, if you look at it, what really makes where we are right now. We have different things to give, but at the same time, we are giving, as we says, more miles for the dollar.
Mr. Mahmoud Al-Bassek of Dubai Trade also has a reply for you.
I just want to highlight one thing that tells you how UAE is all together. Expo 2020. I am heading a delegations in so many countries, pitching for Dubai winning the Expo, which is 7 years from now. The vote is in November 2013. It will be a very critical year for the region. The message that we tell the world is not Dubai, it's UAE. It's the renewable energy in Abu Dhabi, in Masdar City. It's the cultural city of Sharjah. It's the beautiful ports coming in Abu Jaira. It's the whole UAE. So the message is bigger than having a city-centric. Yes, you have a city that has embraced tourism and logistics, that wants to be in the front line and host the biggest event in the world, which is Expo. But the message is UAE, and we are all for UAE, and we will never be disintegrated after our wise leadership, Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan.
Thank you. We have a question in the middle over here, and then we'll go back to the last question for that gentleman.
My name is Shahab Haider. I'm a business consultant, being in the UAE almost 40 years. I think one issue we've seen with FDI, especially post the financial crisis, is that the legal infrastructure in the UAE is a little bit kind of weak in a lot of areas. So what kind of initiatives and investments are going to actually enhance that? Because we find post the financial crisis, a lot of businesses have suffered and they have not been able to actually get satisfactory results from the legal system within the UAE. So what kind of initiatives are being taken to actually promote FDI? Because I think that's an essential part, because there has to be certainty of laws and the courts to enable FDI to be more effective.
Thank you for the question. I think using the word weak is not appropriate. We do have, yes, areas that we need to develop. And the commitment from the leadership was always that we will never stop developing our legal structure to make it better. We will continue to develop whichever area we think there is a room for improvement. And improvement is the word here in UAE. The legal framework came. We are still a 41 years old city or country. But at the same time, we are developing. And when we talk about the FDI law that is coming, yes, there are areas that there are countries who take years and years to develop one law. I think within this year we saw a couple of laws been passed, and more laws are coming into that. But also, when you look at that, we provided a lot of platform or frameworks for businesses to utilize. If you look at the DIFC creation, this was the Dubai International Financial Center was the first international financial center to have a law designed for it rather than implementing whatever is there and trying to change. So this is how dynamic the change could be. But at the same time, we understand that, as you said, and I know this is what you mean, that room for improvement is always what we are embarking on. We know that the world is changing and we are changing with it. The laws that used to be there has to be changed, has to be looked at. But at the same time, we have to look at what suits us. I will attract the investor, but will I give him the red carpet blindly with giving so many other areas of, let's say, sovereignty, of national interest? This is not the case. If this is the case, then I think it won't be too difficult to sell. But there are many areas that any country would look into develop when it's developing its laws and regulation. There are internal issues, there are regional issues, there's global issues. But as we said, there is always, this is going to continue with UAE, developing our rules, regulation, and laws, and look at the best practices to adopt it within our region, within what suits us.
Thank you. And the last question?
Just one thing to add, actually. The legal system in the Emirates, we have different options. So you have Dubai, you have Sharjah, you have Ras Al Khaimah, and you have the federal legal system. What the governments did to attract, let's say, to ease off legal issues, they created arbitration offices, which is available in Sharjah. I believe it's available in all of the Emirates, in Abu Dhabi, in Dubai, I'm sure in different Emirates, which actually accelerates the process of the legal system. And we found that a lot of investors, people that are really concerned about time, they would go more to the arbitration center. So what that shows that we have a very proactive government, a government that actually listens, and that's why we've been seeing very successful foreign trade investments happening in Sharjah. Yes, there was a decline, but the decline was to the whole region and not only to the Emirates. Our decline is much less than the decline of Egypt, for example, or any of the GCC countries. Still, the Emirates will always stay the best destination to invest and to attract investments by far compared to any GCC country, because we have a government that is very close to the businessman. We have a government that reacts dramatically to what happens. We have a government that listens, and I'm talking about the federal government, from the president to the rulers, to the ministers. And that's what makes the Emirates very special. When we travel, we are under the ministries. When we travel by ourselves, we are under the name of the United Arab Emirates. And we strive always to learn to get the best for every investor, whether he is a foreign investor or a local investor.
Okay, thank you. Last question from the gentleman in the back.
Good morning. My name is Matt Sumner, and I represent a company in Shanghai called InvestIn, Jingwai Tozi. And I actually haven't heard addressed so far China as a source of foreign direct investment, as I believe it is now in the top 3 worldwide, maybe top 5 at most. Foreign outbound investment is actually producing, as of 2011, 87 billion in outbound investment, and has been increasing 20 to 30% year over year, and is expected to do so for the next 5 years. We travel around a lot and speak with investment promotion agencies about what their experience has been with China, and obviously hearing mixed things depending on what they're purchasing or investing in. I'd like to hear, I guess, from the representatives on the panel, what has your experience been so far in dealing with Chinese investment, whether it's cultural differences or their interest in purchasing resources or wanting to bring in their own labor, these kinds of challenges that I guess a country like China in its first round of going out is dealing with worldwide. Thank you.
Mr. Mas from Abu Dhabi Economic Development, I think.
You're welcome. If I understand your question, to compare as UAE with the China and foreign direct investment, is that?
your experience so far in dealing with Chinese direct investment and any challenges.
As you know, China is a very promising market, and nobody can ignore that, and it's growing very fast, even though that they said revision in the economic growth, but still in the 7 to 8%. So that's nobody can, but the international companies that they would like to enter market with population, which is China. For us, you know, as I said earlier, we are not focusing at labor-intensive foreign direct investment. China, they have labors, they have a cheap cost of production, so that market always will attract manufacturing in low end. As what we have in UAE, it's a very unique market. What we did, you know, even the sectors that we selected to attract foreign direct, they are capital intensive, not labor intensive. As I said earlier, now we have aerospace sector. It's very costly to enter that sector. ICT is very expensive sector to develop. So, and this requires all the time knowledge. And this is where, you know, universities, colleges are invited to United Arab Emirates to be here to develop human capabilities that can co-op with all these changes. UAE is very flexible with changes. We adapt changes very fast, but also policy and regulation and legislation. It doesn't mean you have to have very complicated legislation that let you move forward. The best economy is US. Look what happened in the financial crisis. What happened? It's how you move forward, how you adapt yourself to the best of understanding what can co-op with you to move forward. As we said, you know, we have big differences between us and China, different culture, different behavior, different languages, but also in UAE, we try to communicate with all nationalities, even though we have almost over 120 nationalities in United Arab Emirates. We try to give them all fair understanding. Today, even the government entities, and some of them in licensing and police station, they put translator for these people. So they are all respected. And many foreign direct investors, they miss few points in UAE that you cannot find it anywhere in the world. Security, easy to transfer money, 100% of ownership of your income, tax-free, logistics, and security of, you know, safety. When I say security of safety, really you can move around very safe, you can live your life, it is your life. So, and the last one, which is the most important for United Arab Emirates, almost everybody speaks English, and all the documents written in Arabic and English. If you go anywhere in the world, except US and UK, you will find only one language on their document. If you go to France, everything is in French. If you go to China, everything in China. So we made the platform that make for any company to come here. It's easy to find people to work in their company. They are majority, they speak English. So it's the easiest of doing business. Thank you.
Okay.
Just quickly to give you a figure, there are more than 2,000 Chinese companies operating in UAE. More than 2,000.
More than 2,000. Okay. You also recently actually met you in a couple years ago in Beijing.
I'm sorry, we're running out of time. We've taken so much from the other session as well. Yesterday, I was talking to the United Arab Emirates Economy and Foreign Trade Minister. He said that he was optimistic that FDIs will grow this year by 15% to about $9 billion coming to UAE, and he expects it to grow in the coming years as well. I mean, the UAE has proven itself resilient to crisis. It grew afterwards when many countries are still facing trouble. The shift of trade from west to east and the juxtaposition of the United Arab Emirates over here is an attractive position for investors. I would like to thank you very much for attending the session on UAE Invest, and thank you very much for coming to the 3rd Annual Investment Forum. Thank you.